My daughter's suitcase crashed against my porch, splitting open like my heart, while she screamed that I'd stolen her life from her real family. Before we begin, like and subscribe and tell me in the comments if you'd adopt someone else's child. Clara held adoption papers in shaking hands. Rain drummed on the roof like angry fingers. Thunder rolled overhead. These papers proved I wasn't her birth mother. She'd found them in the attic, hidden in the old wooden box behind Christmas decorations that had gathered dust for decades. Her face twisted with hurt and disbelief. This was my little girl who used to run to me for hugs when nightmares scared her, who made me crooked Mother's Day cards with purple crayon hearts, who called me Mama until she was 10 years old. Now she stared at me like I was a stranger who'd destroyed her world. She said I'd lied for 32 years, that I'd stolen her from people who really loved her, that everything she'd believed about her life was fake, that she never wanted to see me again. The door slammed. Glass scattered from the porch light. The sound echoed down the empty street. I stood there as rain soaked through my blue sweater, the one she'd given me last Christmas. Water ran off the roof in steady streams. My life was washing away with it. This wasn't how I'd planned to tell her about Maria, about the hospital room, about the choice that had saved her life. A neighbor's curtain twitched, then dropped quickly. Even strangers couldn't watch this kind of pain unfold. What she didn't know was hidden in the envelope she'd never found. I waited on that wet porch for 20 minutes, shivering in the October cold. Rain tapped against windows like impatient fingers. Wind whistled through the bare tree branches. I hoped Clara would open the door. Let me explain about the hospital, about the dying teenage mother who'd begged me to save her baby, about the promise I'd made in that sterile room full of beeping machines. But Clara's bedroom light stayed on, the same window where she used to wave goodnight when I tucked her in. I knew she was crying. I could almost hear her sobs through the glass. I walked 8 blocks to the bus station, each step taking me from the home where I'd raised her. The Sunset Motor Lodge was all my pension could afford. Room 237 smelled like old cigarettes and broken dreams. The heater rattled all night. Ice clinked down the hall. These sounds became my lullabies. Every morning at 8:30 I called Clara. 6 rings, then voicemail. I poured my heart into that silence, telling her about our memories together. She never called back. Not once in all those weeks. Days turned to weeks. The room began to smell like instant coffee and loneliness. Weeks became months. I saw a stranger in the cracked mirror. Hollow cheeks, dull hair, hopeless eyes. The desk clerk, a kind man with gentle eyes, brought me extra towels without being asked. He pretended not to notice when my rent was late. Small kindnesses from strangers kept me alive when love felt impossible. I kept thinking about that wooden box in the attic, about papers Clara had found and ones she hadn't discovered yet, about truth that would explain everything if she'd just keep looking, if anger hadn't blinded her to the rest of the story. But would she look for more? Or had her fury burned away her curiosity about the missing pieces? But the secret I'd kept would destroy everything she believed. October became November. November became December. Snow began to fall, muffling the city sounds outside my window. I heard news through grocery store whispers and church ladies who meant well. Clara had found more papers. She'd kept digging through that box, unable to leave the mystery alone. Maria's medical records. Her birth mother had been 17 and dying. A massive infection had poisoned her young body after giving birth. The doctors said she had hours left, maybe a day if she was lucky. No time for goodbyes or second chances. Maria lived alone, abandoned by family and the baby's father. Foster care was full and broken. There was nowhere safe for Clara to go. Maria grabbed my hand with desperate strength. She made me promise her baby would know love and safety. I'd kept that promise for 32 years, through midnight fevers and scraped knees that needed bandaging, through school plays where I cheered from the front row, through teenage heartbreaks when boys broke her spirit, through college graduation when she walked across that stage, through all the small moments that make a life worth living. but I'd also kept the secret that could have saved us all this pain. The secret that proved Clara wasn't stolen from anyone. She was rescued from a system that would have failed her. Thursday morning in January, snow fell thick outside my motel window, like a white blanket covering the world's mistakes. The manager knocked on my door, his weathered face creased with concern. Someone needed to speak with me at the front desk. It was urgent, he said, important enough to interrupt my morning ritual of stale coffee and regret. My heart stopped when I heard Clara's voice through the crackling phone line, small and broken, and nothing like the strong woman who'd thrown me out months ago. I could hear tears in how her words caught and trembled, could picture her face twisted with the same pain I'd carried all these lonely weeks. She'd found the rest of the papers, the ones that told Maria's real story. The truth in that final letter would change her world forever. Clara had discovered Maria's goodbye letter to me, the one I'd hidden in the bank vault, separate from all the other documents, the letter that explained how Maria had watched me with Clara during those 3 precious days in the hospital, how she'd seen love in my eyes when I sang Spanish lullabies at midnight, how she'd known with absolute certainty that I would be the right mother for her dying gift, how she'd chosen me specifically out of all the possible families who might have taken Clara. Maria had written about her childhood, foster homes that only cared about monthly checks, parents who saw her as free labor, deep loneliness that led to dangerous choices. Pregnant at 16 in a shelter, working double shifts, praying someone would love Clara the way she'd never been loved. The letter proved there was no real family to steal from, no loving grandparents waiting with open arms, no caring father ready to step up and take responsibility, just a dying girl who'd found me and seen hope in the darkness of her final days. But there was one more secret I'd never shared with anyone, not even my sister who'd helped arrange everything. Clara asked where I was staying, her voice barely above a whisper. When I told her about the motel room with its broken heater and view of the dumpster, silence stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. Then I heard her crying, deep gasping sobs like when she was little and fell from the old oak tree in our backyard, breaking her arm and her confidence all at once. She'd been searching for weeks, calling every motel, driving past our house, lost 15 pounds, couldn't sleep, guilt eating her alive. She'd kept my Mother's Day cards all these years, the ones with tiny handprints in purple paint and crooked letters spelling love in a child's careful writing. She'd held them while crying in her empty house, remembering better days when we'd been a family instead of strangers divided by secrets and pain. It took another month for Clara to find me after that phone call. My phone was cut off when I couldn't pay the bill. The silence was deafening after months of hoping it might ring. I'd moved in with a church lady who'd found me crying during Sunday service, overwhelmed by a sermon about forgiveness I wasn't sure I deserved. The old woman's house smelled like lavender soap and fresh bread baking in the oven, like the grandmother I'd never had but always imagined. She listened to my story without judging, nodding her silver head at all the right moments. Made room in her spare bedroom for one more broken heart seeking shelter from life's storms. When Clara finally came to that door, she looked like she'd aged decades in the months we'd been apart. Thin face with sharp cheekbones, hollow eyes surrounded by dark circles. She shook as she reached for me, her hands trembling like autumn leaves. The anger had burned away completely, leaving only regret and desperate love behind. But I had one last truth to share with her, the biggest secret of all. I led her to the couch covered in hand-stitched quilts and pulled out the envelope I'd carried for 32 years, worn smooth from handling during dark moments when I doubted every choice I'd ever made as a mother, when I'd wondered if I'd done right by either Maria or Clara. Inside was Maria's second letter, the one she'd written specifically for Clara, to be given when the time was right, when hearts were strong enough to hold the whole truth without breaking. What happened next broke both our hearts in ways I never imagined possible. Maria had written this letter in her final hours, her handwriting getting shakier as infection stole her strength. She'd planned everything with the precision of someone who knew her time was running out. She'd watched me in that hospital nursery through the window, studying how I interacted with Clara, seen how I knew exactly how to calm her cries with gentle swaying, how I sang the same Spanish song my own mother had sung to me when I was small and afraid. Maria had researched my background, my teaching job, how I cared for struggling students and my sick father, the car accident that left me unable to have children. Clara wasn't just getting a mother. Maria was giving a childless woman the chance for transformative love, perfect symmetry, two people needing each other. The letter contained one last request that had shaped 32 years of my life. Don't tell Clara about me until she becomes a mother herself, until she understands the fierce love that makes you sacrifice everything for your child's future, until she knows in her bones that giving her up was the hardest, most loving thing I ever did, until she's ready to forgive me for dying instead of staying to raise her myself. Clara's hands shook violently as she read those final paragraphs. Maria had ended with words that changed everything we thought we knew about our story. Tell Clara she was wanted desperately by two mothers instead of just one, that her life wasn't stolen from anyone but given freely with hope and prayers for happiness. That love had brought us all together in ways that transcended blood and law and conventional families. Clara fell into my arms like the child she'd always been, no matter how old she got. We cried for everything lost and found over the years, for Maria, who died too young but had chosen love over bitterness in her final hours, for the months we'd spent apart, believing lies that felt like truth, for pain that had almost destroyed the most precious thing either of us had ever possessed. Then Clara whispered something that changed everything again, adding one more layer to our complicated story. She was pregnant, had been when she threw me out into that October storm, too scared and ashamed to tell me about the new life growing inside her. The baby was due in 2 months and she'd been completely alone this whole time, convinced she'd destroyed her only family with her anger and accusations. She took my hand and placed it on her rounded belly. I felt tiny kicks against my palm, a new generation announcing itself. She wanted to name the baby Maria Elena, she said through fresh tears. Maria for her birth mother who'd sacrificed everything. Elena for me, the woman who'd kept promises for over 3 decades. She needed me there when her daughter was born. She understood now what it meant to love someone enough to sacrifice everything for their well-being. The fierce protection that drives mothers to make impossible choices. The way love can look like abandonment to those who don't understand the full story. We spent the rest of that afternoon looking through old photo albums the church lady had helped me retrieve from the house. Clara showed me those Mother's Day cards again, smoothing the wrinkled construction paper with gentle fingers. She'd never thrown them away, even in her darkest anger. Love had lived under all that hurt, waiting patiently for truth to clear the way back home. As sunset painted the winter sky orange and pink, Clara helped me pack my few belongings into her car. We drove to our old house where so many memories lived in every corner. The key still worked. Nothing had changed except us, and perhaps that was exactly as it should be. But one more surprise waited inside our kitchen, sitting on the table like destiny finally arriving. The wooden box sat exactly where Clara had left it months ago, but she'd found something I'd forgotten about completely, a secret compartment in the bottom, hidden for over 30 years. Inside was a small velvet bag that felt heavy with history and hope, Maria's engagement ring, simple gold with a tiny diamond that had belonged to her grandmother, the only valuable thing she'd owned in her short, difficult life, left specifically for Clara with a note saying we'd find it together when our hearts were finally ready to heal instead of hurt. Clara slipped the ring on with trembling hands. 3 generations connected, Maria's sacrifice, my devotion, Clara's forgiveness, woven into something stronger than blood. 2 months later, I held Maria Elena for the first time in the same hospital where her grandmother had died 32 years earlier. She opened dark eyes that seemed ancient with wisdom and looked straight at me. I swear I saw something familiar there, something that whispered of love crossing impossible distances and time itself to bring us all together again. Clara had been in labor for 18 hours, and I never left her side for a single moment. When the pain became unbearable, she gripped my hand with desperate strength and told me she finally understood why Maria had chosen me all those years ago. Why sometimes mothers have to make choices that look wrong from the outside, but come from the deepest possible love. Now I rock my granddaughter while Clara sleeps peacefully in the hospital bed nearby. I think about all the secrets that almost destroyed us, about truth that ultimately saved us, about love that survived everything life could throw at it and emerged stronger on the other side. Sometimes we have to lose everything to understand what really matters most. Sometimes the hardest truths are wrapped in love, waiting patiently for the right moment to heal instead of hurt. Sometimes families are born from choice rather than blood, and that makes them no less real or precious. I wonder if you've ever had to choose between protecting someone you love and telling them a truth that might break their heart before it sets them free.